peanut butter and gender speaking event of the year. Please feel free to get up and get more food, and if you need to leave early, that's fine as well. For those of you who don't know me, my name is M. Shadi Malaklu, and I'm the new chair of Women's and Gender Studies. I am joined today by my colleagues, Meredith Lee, our new assistant professor of Women's and Gender Studies, Kim Saderholm, our administrative associate, without whom today's event and so much of my job would not be possible. Mandy Snowden and Megan Markret, our brilliant and creative student colleagues. And Dejan Graves, a recent graduate of the department who has been indispensable and integral to our programming this year. Together, and with the support of administrative staff like Provost Linda Strong-Leak and affiliated faculty, we're in the process of updating the Women's and Gender Studies curriculum, as well as in the process of turning the beautiful space you're sitting in today into a women's and gender and sexuality space, indeed a center, where students from all walks of life, and especially trans and gender nonconforming students, can feel at home. We have an excellent peanut butter and gender, soon to be renamed Gender Talk, lined up for you this year, drawing on scholars of Appalachian, Indigenous, and Black genders and sexualities. You should have already received a calendar of those events in your Berea College email inbox. But no worries if you haven't, we're going to recirculate it again shortly. Today's speaker is Appalachian poet Savannah Sipple. Savannah is the author of the debut 2019 poetry collection, WWJD and Other Poems, in which Savannah explores what it means to be a queer woman in Appalachia. Savannah's poetry is at once rooted in Appalachian culture and in her own body. The publisher writes, quote, "With a beer-drinking Jesus as her wingman, Savannah navigates the difficult terrain of stereotypes, conservative evangelicalism, and perhaps most shame." In today's talk, Savannah will share her experiences growing up queer in Appalachia, exploring the ways in which she felt othered in the Mountain South. Experiences that, she tells us, pushed her away not from mountain culture, but towards a marriage of feminism with mountain culture. She specifically attributes feminism with disabusing her of the either-or thinking that so often silences and obscures queer experiences of self and community. Please join me in welcoming Savannah to Berea's campus.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. I want to thank Professor Malaklu for having me here today in the Women and Gender Studies Department. I am very excited to be here. I have notes on my iPad. I'm old school. I should have printed this stuff, but so yeah, I'm very excited to be here. I love Berea and the college. I see a lot of familiar faces in here. I've talked to some of you in class today. So today, I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to weave my poetry into the lecture. So, if poetry is not your thing, oh well. You're going to hear it anyway. So, I am Savannah Sipple. And before we get started, there are a couple things I want you to know. I am female. That's how I identify. I'm a lesbian. I am fat. And I'm a feminist. I'm also Appalachian. Now, these are only facets of my identity. But I want to point them out because those are the parts of me that I've been taught to to be ashamed of. And they are the parts that I'm still often shamed for being. So I have answered a lot of questions today from some of the classes I've visited, and that has been a lot of fun, and I've tried very hard not to say something I plan to say today. So if any of this sounds familiar to you students, it's okay. But what does it mean to grow up queer in the mountains? I've thought about this a lot, because it's not just about sexuality. It's not just about gender identity. I'm going to shift around a lot. This heat is on, so. I think what it means is that you're very aware of the way that things can chip away at you. Growing up queer for me was more than my sexuality. It encompasses all of the ways that I was told, you are different and it is not okay. For me, the word queer is an inventory of shame centered on my body. I was everything a girl wasn't supposed to be. I was big. And for a long time, I was taller than the other kids. Then I stopped growing and they started growing. I was a tomboy. I didn't conform to the expectations of my gender. I didn't like dresses. I preferred kickball and softball to dolls and dance class. I was, as many people like to tell me, mouthy. A term that I have realized is often used to manipulate people and control them. So the first poem that I'm going to read sets the basis for that experience. It's called What We Tell Ourselves, and it contains more than one voice and perspective in it, but it captures a lot of the female queer experience in Appalachian. It's a little long, it's in sections, so pretend you're reading a chapter book. It's not that long. What we tell ourselves. 1. I show him my pay stub, my weekly deposit slip, reasons for needing $10. This is how it has to be. This is working 9-hour days on my feet, barely a break to come home, cook, sweep, mop, wash, wait on him. This is watching it fall around me, him sitting while shingles fly with every wind, gutters hanging loose, leaking, the back porch needing a new gate. This is him watching me while I push mow, rake leaves, rake limbs. This is him, this is his, and I have no business asking for help or money. I shouldn't expect him to. The woman's place is to submit. This is fitting to the Lord. 2. You can walk away and not look back. 3. I'm too tired. It's too expensive. It was his time to go. I'll pray for you. I had no idea this was coming. I've never raised my voice or a hand to her. She has another failure. The water is safe. Things are different for a girl. You can't do that. I won't let you. I will knock your head off. I will take your car keys. Do you hear me? I don't want to. I'm not able to. She's wanted this for a long time. She asked for it. Deep down, I come by it natural. I come by it honest. 4. You can stay and survive. 5. You'll never get married if you can't handle a man wailing on you. If you don't change your attitude, don't shut up, don't wear more dresses, makeup. If you don't learn to cook, don't stop being bossy. You better stop trying to show how smart you are. Stop tearing your legs up playing sports. Men like legs. Stop sleeping in sports bras. Men like big breasts, like your mother's. Things are different for a girl. Whatever this is, You better get over it. 6, you can leave. 7, I never wanted to stay. I never wanted to leave. I never wanted to come back to gravel dust. I could not wait to leave. I could not breathe in the shadows. I could not stand the good country boys. Could not stand the Bible thumping, teenage girl humping men. I never could keep a secret. Their shit eating grins, scratch my back politics. I know I will never meet people as honeysuckle good as home. I know city neighbors won't ever love me as much. I know what the good country people say. I know the good curvy road. I know how my skin tightens when I have to go home. I don't want to go home. I don't know where home is. I don't know if I love the mountains. I don't know if I hate the mountains. I love to drown in the mountains. I hate the crooked mountains. I love the mountains. I hate the mountains. I love the mountains. I hate the mountains. I love. Eight, it's a choice. 9, on the long dry days, I wish I had hit you. I wish I had reared back as you screamed, I'll knock your damn teeth out. I wish I had let it fly. I wish I'd cocked my fist to your jaw, right as you claimed. I'll do it. I will. On those days I wake with a copper taste of hate in my mouth, when I can't sweat it out, cold. I can't hold it under the creak of me. I know, I don't know which I hate more, your lack of follow through or my own. 10, our anger is a lantern, this little light of mine. 11, hang it in the family room. Man puts his hand to the flinty rock and overturns mountains by the roots. He cuts out the channels and the rocks, and his eyes see every precious thing. He dams up the streams so that they do not trickle, and the thing that is hidden he brings out to light. But where shall wisdom be found? 12, it's not our fault. 13, rid her of topsoil, cleanse the skin, blast it open with knife, with dynamite. The things we mine out are what kill us. Needle wire your way to the seam, drag line tissue, swift. Strive for clean margins. Don't overburden her with waste. Use a drain for the slurry. What would we save if we didn't destroy the breast? Follow up with sponge baths, support groups, radiation, bumper stickers. Then you can reclaim what is yours. 14, you can come back. 15, she always was a little bit queer, they'll say. When you show up at the funeral home with a full-on Leslie pompadour, black dress and ties be damned. Still you'll smile and tell them you're doing just fine, even after the good church folks stare at you side-eyed and whisper, backslider. 16, you can forgive. 17, when it all goes to hell, the holiest among them turn on you first. We'll open a red-spined hymnal, sing, it is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well with my soul. 18, it's not our fault. 19, once the mountains loved us. Once we loved the mountains. My first experience with the word gay occurred in 2nd grade, when our music teacher interrupted class to tell us she needed to talk to us about something very important. Her face looked ashen and somber as she informed us that the lyrics to our state song were being perverted by people who wanted to justify their sins. I went to a public school, by the way. She wanted us to know that the word gay really meant to be joyful or lighthearted. I was 8 years old. Up until that point, I don't think I'd even heard the term homosexual. But that teacher was so disgusted, she thought it was appropriate to take time out of our class to make sure we knew homosexuals were wrong. Using the word gay to refer to them was distorting our language, and if we were good, we would stay away from anything associated with homosexuality. At the time, and I didn't recognize why this happened, but at the time, my chest burned with shame. This next poem is called A List of Times I Thought I Was Gay. And I did not purposefully put both list poems back to back. This one's shorter if it helps. A list of times I thought I was gay. 1. Some of you youngins might have to look up the reference in this part. I gave a girl a handwritten copy of Peter Cetera lyrics, and it hurt me when she left them in another girl's desk. 2. I wrote a letter to my sports idol. I wanted to be like her, a girl the boys feared on the court. 3. Whenever she made me wear a dress. 4. I wore shorts and knee socks to the school dance instead of a skirt. My friends laughed. A cute older boy asked me to dance, and his friends laughed. 5. In the locker room, surrounded by sports bras and ball shoes, I felt no different. I looked. 6. I cut myself with a straight razor. 7. In the kitchen at church camp, I cleaned dishes in 3 sinks. Soap, bleach, rinse. Week after week for years, I never felt clean. 8. I wanted to hug someone. I did not trust myself to hug someone. 9. Boxing class, my body sore, my muscles alive. 10. When I saw you clothed. 11. And imagined you naked. 12. When I saw you naked. 13. When I let myself hug you in my mind and your arms found my body and we were clothed and naked at once. 14. I realized if I wore makeup, if I wore dresses, she thought it meant I was straight. 15. When the youth pastor decried our friend might be dating a woman, my face flushed. 16. When I wore my hair in a faux hawk, then washed it out immediately. 17. Every time I wanted to buy a new tie. 18. When I noticed your tight shirt sculpted to your breasts, your abs, your jutted out hips. 19. Every time a friend got married and I went without a date. 20. The first time I said, I'll never marry a man, then cried when I realized I didn't have to. Everywhere I turned, someone made me feel like something about me wasn't good enough. Multiple voices told me the goal was to make myself more attractive, more desirable. Boys thought girls who liked sports were cool, so long as we didn't try to be better than them or actually compete with them. It was okay to be smart, as long as I remembered there were boys in the class who were smarter than me. And there was never a condition in which it was okay to be big. Boys wanted thin girls, pretty girls, girls who kept their mouths shut. These are lessons I learned at home, from my classmates, from the 3 television stations we had, and from church. There were so many rules about my body, what I was allowed to do, or think, or say, or eat. This next poem is called And the Word Was God. and the Word was God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was fat. In the beginning, I was fat. In the beginning, I was lean and long, carried 2 weeks past due, and wore preemie clothes. And then I chunked up. Baby fat. A fat baby. Baby, I grew big bone, grew 6 inches taller than the other little girls, grew hips and thighs and breasts before my time. In percentile on all the doctor's charts, I grew. I knew I was too large, too loud, too mouthy for boys. I knew, even then, I loved girls. I knew by how loud the boys said no. I wanted them to say no. I wanted them to say yes. I wanted to feel like I could stop burying myself in my body. My body grew large. My body grew larger. A walk-in closet. I stood on the inside, hiding behind dresses. On the outside, Bible verses and Jesus. Men who made sure I heard them tell me my body was not my own, my mind was not my own, but it was. So I started to drag myself out. I kicked that door open, I kicked it down. Haven't looked back. Don't look back. Don't look back at the beginning. In the beginning was that Word, and that Word was God. And the Word is not God. I am God. I am that Word. I am God's Word. I am still fat. So even as I acknowledge that things may be different, I also have to admit 2 things. I desperately wanted to fit in. And in many ways, I was really good at passing. I knew how to hide. I played basketball and softball. I love being part of a team, and I use sports as a coping mechanism. I could be rough as a corn cob on the basketball court, so being the big jock became part of my identity. This next poem is called Box Her. Box her. I was 9. Father claimed he knocked my goddamn head off. I jacked a boy's jaws for calling me fat in gym class. In 5th grade, a girl smacked me first. I'm not a fighter, I swear. I stood sycamore solid for years while Father threatened, while girls on the ball team tried to knock me down. They couldn't. I ran my mouth to get them, anyone, to hit me. Please, give me a reason. I was kind until I wasn't. Once I started to slip, that was it. The same chick goaded me for years until a literal push, a shove in my back. I could have been a lover. My fist loved the side of her head, that kiss, smack of her hand across my jaw, that magnetic pull. Until a teacher pulled us apart, eyes blazing like animals. We wanted each other. We yearned to hurt each other so much we ate. Later, I helped separate 2 girls. They clung to each other's hair. Long hair flew out in clumps. They jerked so tight my head hurt. When one threatened to whip me too, the basketball team set her straight. Solid ground, those bitches. Now, I have never considered my family to be overly religious. And by that I mean we went to church on Sundays. We didn't pray before meals or read Bible stories together. However, I went through a particularly devout period in high school and my early college years. I went to youth group, joined FCA, held prayer circles at school. I worked at a church summer camp and went on mission trips. Religion offered me comfort, and as long as I was following the rules, It offered me a community. But the older I became, the more I realized things about myself and about the power structure established by the evangelical church. The more I learned about the Bible and Christianity, the more questions I had. My questions weren't appreciated. And as I became more and more willing to admit my sexuality, it became clear the church would not accept me. So many of the things that made me different were a threat, particularly to men, and especially when it comes to matters of the church. In the evangelical church where I grew up, maleness is exalted. The pronoun he is used for God, men are set as the head of the household, and church doctrine often prohibits women from holding any kind of higher position in the church. I wasn't supposed to take up space, not physically or emotionally or even spiritually. And any time I tried to take up space, I was defying expectations and pissing people off. This next poem has a long title that I'm going to mess up if I'm not careful. It's called After Seeing a Topo Map of My Childhood Stomping Grounds Hanging in a Colleague's Home. And it has an epigraph. Cartographers solved the problem of representing a three-dimensional land surface on a flat piece of paper by using contour lines. Thus, horizontal distances and vertical elevations can both be measured from a topographic map. That's from the Idaho Museum of Natural History. Once, when I was a kid, to scare a bear, my father walked one side of the trail and fired a rifle. The bear ran down the other side. The mouth of the trail came out at the edge of the woods in front of the house. That low dip line was the home run fence I aimed for when we played baseball in the yard. The bases were trees, and home plate was right in front of our playroom window. If you rounded third, you always made it home because we get our asses beat over broken glass. That was our benchmark, the one thing we knew. He could beat us. I knew the difference between a rabbit burrow and a snake hole, but I was scared of both. Spent hours perched around the shaded incline between yard and woods. Knew both contained something that could kill me. Once, I flipped a go-kart turning out of our drive too sharply. Once, I drove a four-wheeler straight into a tree. I once pitched head over handlebars off my bike onto the gravel road trying to outrace a loose dog. A vertical exaggeration. The neighbor who found me thought I'd been hit by a car. Mom sat me in the garden tub, poured 2 bottles of rubbing alcohol all over my wounds to stop the threat of infection. At basketball practice, I once refused to take a charge, and the guard, shorter than me, stood nose to chest bone, said, "Do you know who you're messing with?" At home, bruises littered my ribs. At home, an agonic line split my arm after every time my father stood in my face and screamed, "Do you know who you're talking to?" 1 inch equals 10 miles. I was 15 and had a higher ACT score than the point guard, a senior. A line. I was top in my class. A line. All lines. Once I hit a line drive into my brother's chest. Twice his fist found my nose. A relief. Every time we hurt each other, we cried. The contours tightened. I wrecked my truck, flipped a golf cart, crashed my car, kept telling myself I was lucky. When I was little, I kept bronchitis. My father gave me vodka for the cough. My lungs on fire, my kidneys on fire, my house on fire. Years later, felt like a line, elevated. One that would bleed me dry, scar me. One that would leave me marked. So I was fat, I was sensitive, I wasn't girly enough, I grew too quickly, I could be mean, I was nice sometimes, let people take advantage of me, I wasn't submissive, I was a teacher's pet. cussed too much. I wasn't holy enough. And the inventory of my shame went on and on. How in the world could I possibly add being gay to that list? There came a point when I knew, despite all of my efforts to be good enough, I had to face my shame and I had to face my sexuality. I was not perfect, but I had done everything right. I went to college, got my bachelor's, got a full-time job, stayed in the church, completed my master's, landed a full-time teaching job, took care of my grandmother when her health started to fail, and said yes to everything they asked me to do at work. I edited a literary journal, I taught workshops, I kept trying, I kept doing to prove I was enough. Nothing I did was ever enough because I kept denying a huge part of myself. There was one thing I was unwilling to be, and that was gay. This next poem is called Jesus is My Best Girlfriend, My Dutch Boy. Jesus is my best girlfriend, my Dutch boy. I ask him, why me? Beg, can't I be normal in one way? He weighs him down, our hate, makes his shoulders sag, his back bend. He touches the slits on my arms where I try to bleed out the worst of me. Slumps, bone tired, looks me in the eye and says, love, don't break the yoke. I can remember very specific moments growing up where I thought, does this mean I'm gay? Or, I hope this doesn't mean I'm gay. My closest friends laughed because it should have been so obvious. But I fought very hard to deny this part of myself. Partly for religious reasons and partly because I was bone tired. I carried a lot of shame and I did not want any more. Here's what I can tell you. I've disappointed a lot of people by coming out. My faith is very personal to me, and there are a lot of folks from my past who don't understand my framework. I can tell you that being gay is not the thing that broke me. It is a secret I kept for very long, but it is not a black spot or a tarnish. I can tell you that misogyny is so deeply internalized in our culture, we use it in ways we don't even realize to control and manipulate women. And the church supports that. I can tell you that words like queer and fat and feminist are often used to perpetuate this shame cycle. So is the term Appalachian. People spit those words with venom to make you believe you aren't right, you aren't enough. And to those people, I say, sit down, be quiet. Because you are enough. And the reality is we've all likely felt othered in some way. The difference comes in how we are conditioned to cope with the othering. I was not conditioned to cope with it well. And so my process was longer and I came out later than a lot of people are able to. But the difference comes in how we take our own experiences and use them to break the cycle. And that is how I ended up with a book called WWJD and Other Poems. So this last poem is the last one in the book. And it's called Jesus Rides Shotgun. We go balls to the wall. Windows down, aviator sunglasses always on. I drive like a bat out of hell. Do donuts on sun-dry highways, 180s on ice-slick parkways. Sometimes when I drift, I think this is the end. I used to be afraid. Sometimes I still am. Maybe. Don't hit the brakes, Jesus says. Turn the wheel. That's how you know the way you want to go. Thank you. Class, and so there might be some shuffling, but I'm questions. I'm here to answer some questions. I'll read more poems if want, I have books for sale, but if you do need to leave, do so quietly because we are doing a Q&A session. But yeah. Yes.
How do you define feminism?
How do I find what?
Define feminism.
Oh, okay. I define feminism as believing in the equality and equity of both the sexes and all genders. We all deserve to be treated with equity and like people. And so for me, that's what feminism is. And I know it's sometimes a loaded term, and there's discussion between whether you're feminist or humanist or womanist. And I use feminist. But for me, yes, it means equity. Other questions? Yes.
So, do you ever kind of have struggles with your faith? It sounds like you based it a lot on the teachings of Jesus, maybe the Sermon in the Mount. But like, what do you make of the other parts that are a little bit more explicit? They're mentioning of homosexuality. What's your personal journey with reconciling faith with your
Okay. Well, I'm not going to dive deep into theology here, but when I realized that in order for me to be a healthy and happy person, that I was going to have to accept the fact that I was gay, my faith was a huge part of why I didn't do that, didn't want to do that. So I had to break up with Jesus for a little while. But I thought about like the most basic tenets of Christianity. And Christianity is based on being a follower of Christ. And Christ preached love. And so for me, it's that simple. My job is to love other people. My job is to love myself. My job is to love the Lord. And if I don't love other people, if I don't love myself, then I'm not showing very much love for the Lord either. So it's that simple for me. It took a long time for me to get there, and it was a process. I've had people in my life who wanted to argue theology and this Bible verse and that Bible verse, and I'm not here to do that, but short story of a very long experience. That's what I had to do. And for me, it's also meant that I haven't found a church to go to yet, because it's still a process. And so, but it's there. Other questions? Yes. Either, I don't know. You.
As someone who also is from Appalachian and is queer and having family that isn't just supportive is definitely a big part of coming from this region. With your family, did you ever find a period of reconciliation? Was there ever like healing? Or how did you go about that?
Okay. I have been very fortunate in that my family has not raised much of a ruckus. Now, I have to be fair to my mother to some extent. Because of the nature of our relationship, she was the very last person I came out to. Having said that, it's not like I sat down and had a lot of conversations with a lot of people. I just decided to start living my truth. There were a few people I had conversations with, and I started with the people who were most religious and most operating from a framework that I knew condemns homosexuality. The other thing is, I just haven't talked about relationships with my mom a lot. And so I wanted to be sure of who I was and be okay with it before I said anything to her. And that has probably more to do with me and my personality. But there have been a few moments where I think it has a lot to do with her generation, where she's told me not to flaunt it. But she she's been accepting. I had been dating my wife for about a month when I told her, so, yeah, it was a while into it before I said anything to her. I was going into surgery and said, Mom, I have to tell you something. And it was a totally minor procedure, no big deal, but they were going to use anesthesia, and so I guess I thought, oh my God, I might die and she won't know, and I'll feel guilty in the afterlife. I don't know what I thought. But I told her, and then they wheeled me away. And then when I came out, I was on anesthesia and painkillers, so it was great. But she's been very accepting and kind. My brother didn't even blink. He said, okay, you deserve to be happy. And that was it. So I'm very fortunate in that. My extended family, if they have a problem with it, they haven't said anything to me. So I can recognize that is not everyone's experience. I have a very close friend who has struggled with it. We care about each other very much, and it has not been easy to navigate that. She's like a sister in every way. We've known each other since we were 3, so I remember her. She was around before my sibling, and so it's been hard, but we're getting through it, one thing at a time. And she's coming to my wedding, so we're Do you mean safer in Appalachian?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I talked about this maybe in one of the classes, I don't know. Be visible, have conversations with people, be willing to listen to perspectives that are different from your own, even if you think they're off base or ignorant or wrong or just not, you just don't understand. There are, I encounter people that I don't understand where they're coming from. But if you listen to someone, it helps build understanding. And so being visible, having those conversations, makes a huge difference for a lot of people. Thank you. Yes.
So are you familiar with the term Appalachian?
I am, yeah.
Okay, this is a couple parts question. Do you consider yourself a Appalachian writer? And what advice did you give aspiring Appalachian writers?
I have never used the term Appalachian to apply to myself. I believe Sam Gleaves started that term. And he is very much fabulous. So I hope that one day I can be as fabulous as Sam. But I would give the advice to anyone aspiring to be a Appalachian writer or an artist or anything else. Go for it. Be yourself. Be as authentic as you can. And when you write the truest thing you can. The feminist in me, and I've said this before, it hates that I want to quote this, but I have to, because Ernest Hemingway in A Movable Feast said, all you have to do is write one sentence. Write the truest sentence that you know. And so he was a misogynist, and it kills me to quote him, but he's right. The other thing is, I keep telling myself, I quote Audre Lorde. It's my favorite quote from one of her poems. It says, I am deliberate and afraid of nothing. So, be deliberate, be afraid, do it anyway.
How long have you been writing poetry, and was there a particular event or something that happened that motivated you to publish this poem?
Well, I've been writing poetry since I was 10, 11, something like that. I didn't take myself seriously until I was a freshman in college. In that, I thought that this is something I should study and actually try to make a career out of. I think I had hoped to publish poems, of course. I'd hoped to maybe publish a book, but I didn't consider it something I should actively and in my daily life do until my freshman year of college. And then once I decided that, I mean, the goal is not publication, but I think that everyone has a story and those stories deserve to be told. And so for me, I wanted to do that by publishing my book. For some poets, that's going around and doing readings. For some poets, that's doing slam poetry. For some poets, that's teaching. For me, I wanted to publish a book to tell my story. And so that's kind of how it happened. Yes.
First of all, thanks for coming here and thanks for creating that book that does so much but fleshes out the intersectional identity of queer. I wonder what you've experienced in trying to find community in queer spaces or among group folks that maybe don't have the same religious or class experience that was along with
I mean, I think that if you can find common ground with people, then you can start to build a community. A huge part of my really close community is built of queer writers that I've known or that I know. But it also includes writers who aren't queer. And so, the other thing you can do is just get involved with organizations and here on campus. But I live in Lexington, so there are a lot of different queer events that go on. Go to those. You'll meet people. I'm very introverted, so I'm not going to go up and introduce myself to someone I don't know. So there are those challenges, but being involved just makes a big difference. Going to those spaces, you'll meet people that you connect with. You will meet people you won't connect with too. It may have to do with being from a rural area or not being from a rural area, but it also may not. So the same way you would integrate yourself into any community, become a part of it, you'll find your people eventually. Yes.
Because of the stereotype that Appalachians have for being uneducated, have you struggled with discrimination being a writer, being in the academic field?
I don't know if, with my writing, I have necessarily experienced that. I think that it's possible there have been a few people who have read the book and not fully connected with it. I don't think that's led to discrimination. Now, as an Appalachian, I have very much experienced that because people comment on my accent all the time. I had a professor, Riziper, when I was in college, when I was at Western for my undergrad. My job was to call him and ask for donations. So please donate money to Western, blah, blah, blah. I talked to this very nice lady on the phone, and she was so friendly. And she said, I usually donate every year. I'll donate $50. I don't know what it was. But she was asking me about myself. Oh, what are you studying? So finally, I'm like, okay, time to go on to the next call. She said, well, where are you from? I said, well, ma'am, I'm from Eastern Kentucky. A little town called Berea. And I think she might have asked me what county. And she said, well, aren't you just so lucky? And I said, ma'am, I'm not sure I know what you mean. Well, aren't you just so lucky Western accepted you? And I said, I'm sorry. And she said, well, just you were able to get out. And I said, ma'am, not only did Western accept me, they're paying me a lot of money in scholarship money to be here. And I hung up, and I'll take so much and then I'm done. But yeah, so I've experienced, and I can tell you 1,000 stories. But as a writer, I have not experienced that yet. There are people who don't understand the real experience. Hopefully, the more people publish and share the different perspectives and experiences, the more understanding that will start to happen. So, yes.
So I was really taken with your usage of prayer,
Okay.
and it reminds me of a pure black scholar named Patrick Harris. Johnson. Who used to think about black pure sexuality and mortality. And I'm wondering what a certain kind of relationship to the land and to the mountains, and that is within Appalachian culture, how that maybe also racializes people, such that these are about intersectional experiences and not always just straightforward experiences of sexuality.
I don't know where to start. I mainly use the word queer because that's how I've heard it used in place of the word queer. Not in regards to sexuality, but it was used as a term for anyone who was different. And so there's the line in the poem, she always was a little bit queer. And it's not like they necessarily say, oh, she was always gay. I mean, I think that Appalachia as a region needs more language that's more inclusive. We often tend to overlook our members who are not white. We often tend to overlook our members who are different, whether that's in regards to sexuality or gender. And so, that's got to change. More inclusive language has to become more commonly used. I'm not sure I've answered your question in any kind of way. But, I mean, I think our language has to shift. And I've talked about this in one of the classes today. If we don't shift our language and our actions to be more inclusive, we're overlooking someone's identity. We're erasing part of somebody. And as someone who's had part of herself erased, it's not fun. It takes a lot to work through that. And I say that acknowledging that I have also had a privilege in my life. And so we've got to find a way to see each other for who we are and respect that, even in our language. Anyone else? We've got a couple more minutes. And if not, you can go. Yeah.
I wondered if you would say about being married. What are some of your models for being married?
I mean, I don't know that we have had any. We're legally married. It's a long story involving love, and I needed health insurance, but we got really married a few months ago, and then I got a job. But we're having a ceremony that's important to us. It was already planned and paid for. We didn't necessarily have a model, and the day after we got legally married, this friend of ours, who is, I'm guessing, in her 70s, and very radical activist, lesbian, she said in her day, the point was to not get married. The point was to be counterculture, which I understand, but she wanted to know why we chose to do it. And so we tried to explain it. We've also had friends who have said things like, which one of you is the guy? Who's gonna do this or that? And so we've been very deliberate in our ceremony and making it about us. The point is that it's me and her. We love each other. We're making this commitment. We want it to reflect us, not this standard printout ceremony of what marriage is supposed to be. Not this person waits at the front for the other one, or this person's giving away like their property. And if that's how you choose to do it, that is you. That is your choice. But so we've been very deliberate in that, in creating how we want it to look. So somehow we didn't really have examples. So we're making them. Okay, I'm happy to stay and talk. A couple of students have wanted me to sign an anthology or something. I have books for sale, but come talk if you want, or go ahead and leave.